don't allow yourself to be circumscribed by the perceptions and the expectations of others. You're a medical doctor, but you're more than a medical doctor. You're a human being, you're a father, you're a brother, you're many things. You can still do those other things. Medicine should not define you, it should be part of who you are.
I'm just so happy that you actually decided to dress up for our special esteemed guest. Normally you wear some dirty scrubs, but you look pretty clean with your J. Crew shirt.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest today. Welcome back to Recommended Daily Dose. I am Dr. Clenton Coleman, along with my colleague, Dr. Suraj Saggar. This guy needs no introduction, but I'm gonna try to get through this introduction. He is the host of the nationally syndicated Emmy Award-winning television show, The Doctors, on CBS. You've also seen him on Rachel Ray's show, VH1 Celebrity Fit Club, Oprah, The View, Dr. Oz, Steve Harvey, New York Times bestselling author, The Shred, Revolutionary Diet, Clean Over Lean, Mind Over Matter, many more. He also has a new book out, a novel called The Unspoken, which we'll get into, but we wanted to welcome him to the show. We have Dr. Ian Smith in the building. Welcome, sir.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
Want to get an idea of what you've been into, and if you can give us some guidance on giving the message out to people to eat healthy, especially during this time. So, welcome.
And also how to stay lean. As you can see, Clinton has let himself go a little bit. He's really he used to fill up that jacket a lot better. As you can see, I'm still pretty lean. So if you could help him out, also, I would appreciate. He is my friend, so I would appreciate you helping him out.
Yeah, thanks, guys. No, I've been really busy actually. In the beginning of this whole nonsense. I say nonsense because the way the country's handled this has been just so deplorable on every level. But in the beginning of it, I stated on IG, on Instagram, that I was just going to stay active and that I was going to be productive and that there are things in life you can control, things in life you cannot control. And so I really am happy that I focused my energy on the things that I can control. So writing a lot, lifting a lot, working out in the basement, hanging out with my family and connecting with them, playing tennis outside. Things that I know I can do and schedule and feel good about, I've done. So it's been a really productive quarantine period for me, pandemic for me. It's a weird thing to say, considering over 250,000 of our fellow Americans are in the ground, unfortunately. I'm very frustrated by that. I think it's terrible. But I also feel like, I'm not the president of the United States, and wasn't asked to be on the coronavirus task force.
Right.
And had I been, I would have had a different opinion. But that being said, guys, listen, you guys know this. You guys are on the front lines in a different way than I am. And we all have to do what we can do to try to make it better. But by the same token, you got to take care of yourself, too.
Right.
And so, you can't lose your identity and your life, basically, doing the other thing. So it's been a weird time. But like I said, I've been blessed. And I see the end of the tunnel approaching us, and I'm excited about it.
Let me ask you a question. You guys just celebrated your 2000th episode on the Doctors. Congratulations. As a physician in the media, how has your focus changed as far as getting the message out to patients, or I guess your audience now? Because now we see things have changed as far as health and wellness with the quarantine. There's such a thing as the quarantine 15, where I had patients who either do very well as far as their diet and lifestyle, or they have the opposite. How do you address that?
Well, it's interesting. So on the show, we are not live. So unfortunately, we're not on like Good Morning America or the Today Show where we can respond right away to something that happens. But, the pandemic's been a while for many months. So we're able to talk about it. And one of the big parts is basically how people are coping, whether it's weight gain or relationship issues, sexual issues, dating. We cover all these things on the show. But the weight issue is one, obviously, that's near and dear to me, being a person who writes a lot of diet books. And my whole thing has been to people, listen, it's interesting. We always talk about we don't have enough time,
right?
Because we're always so busy. Guess what? You got a lot of time now at home. Control your environment, organize yourself, and really be serious about improving yourself. Once again, back to things you can control. Improve how you eat. improve how you move, improve your sleep. All these things that we tend to let go because we're in such a frenetic paced world. On the show, we talk about how people need to reconnect. And so I'm constantly on the show trying to encourage people, to uplift people, to challenge people, to be, at the end of the show, I say, be a little better each day. You know what I mean?
Right.
Little improvements make a big difference. So it's a tough thing we're trying to tackle on the show. We are bringing credible voices to talk about coronavirus and vaccinations and medications. That's our responsibility on the doctors. And so we're taking it very seriously.
No, I appreciate it, because we've talked about on our own show the physical toll and health toll this to take, and not just physically though, also mentally, right? I mean, this is a huge thing mentally as well, and people don't realize that depression, anxiety, even among healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, things I've seen, things Clinton's seen, it's almost like a PTSD with the second surge occurring across the country. So, it's so, like you said, it's so important, to take care of your health. I will tell you, and I'm sure a lot of docs and nurses, I'm sure you've talked to, it is exhausting, doing this mentally, physically. And so, I bought a Peloton. I try to get home and disconnect and work out and do the best I can. But it's not always easy. Sometimes people have more time, but they're not using their time wisely. So I like what you said about organizing yourself and reconnecting. But just the availability of time is not necessarily going to be conducive to a healthier lifestyle, right? It's really using that time in an efficient manner. So I appreciate those words for sure.
Yeah, I'm big on efficiency. People always ask me, how do I do so much? Writing books, doing TV, blah, I got a family. It's all about efficiency, I really try to make use of my time wisely.
So you're not binge watching shows on Netflix and Amazon? I don't.
Are you kidding?
Do.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So you still find time for that? How's that?
Yeah. You got to. The Crown just came out, and
I love The Crown. I love The Crown
on Netflix. So so I'm watching that, but I really compartmentalize.
Did you watch Tiger
my
King?
life.
Did you watch Tiger King?
Of course.
That got me through the first phase of COVID. I have to be honest.
Yeah, Tiger King. Lots of stuff I watch. I watch Harry Bosch on Amazon Prime.
Sure.
But the thing is this. The thing is that people have to compartmentalize. If you're good at compartmentalizing, you're able to have focus. I tell my kids all the time, focus. It's so, and I learned that as an athlete, and it's really helped me in life. So when I'm writing my novels, I'm focused, and so I don't need to spend the same amount of time someone else has to spend when they get distracted easily. When I sit down to write, I'm ready to go. When I'm on the TV show in the studio, I'm ready to go. I'm focused on the show. But when I leave the show and I leave the set, whatever my next endeavor is, that's where my focus is. So I think that really helps me be more efficient and more productive. And I also have a lot of energy. I've always been that way. And I listen to my body. When I'm tired, what I do? I go to sleep.
Right.
Like I run. When my body says that's it, it could be, I have luxury. It could be 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 in the morning. Boom, I'm gone. And I just think that people have to be self-aware,
Sure.
and know how to make it work.
Now, earlier you mentioned the government's response to the pandemic. Suraj and I have dealt with a lot of social issues and tried to speak out on things. Do you think there's a role for doctors, particularly in that area, outside of just talking about medicine? Should we just speak on things that affect our patients, or just be like the boring science?
Yeah, some people say, stay in your lane. Other people say, no, racism is a public health issue. So I think
it's the shoot up and dribble analogy. Shut up and dribble.
I got to tell you guys something. I got to tell you, this whole pandemic is the lane of doctors.
Sure.
And doctors were not allowed to be up front. And those doctors who were pushed to the front were compromised politically.
Yep.
And it has cost us dearly. It's really, really terrible. And it frustrates me. I can't tell you how much it frustrates me to see a fellow physician who took the same courses I took to allow pseudoscience and politically motivated
misinformation
lies to be propagated. It's so frustrating. For example, I probably shouldn't call him out, but Sanjay did an interview with Burks on CNN.
Yep.
I'm not going to watch that interview because we needed that interview 8 months ago.
Right.
Yep.
We needed you to sit down and talk to the country in a real scientifically credible way 8 months ago. Now you want to do it? Now you want to do it? And Sanjay is Sanjay going to ask her, how could you stand behind someone who was spewing absolute scientific falsehoods? How could you stand there with a straight face and in that company and not walk away from it?
Right.
It's just, it boggles the mind. It just
You could
really
tell on
frustrates
her
me as a
face
physician.
that she was so uncomfortable. And it's just, as a
Well, guess what,
physician, your
guys?
And maybe
priority is
she should
taking
have been
care
more
of
vocal. I
patients.
think that's what he's saying. He should have been
Yes,
more.
if you're uncomfortable, you know what you do?
Quit.
Walk.
Yep.
Walk. Like,
Right.
is the appointment and the lights and the name, is it that important to you that you will compromise your integrity as a physician? No. My answer is leave. Say, you know what, guys? This
Right.
isn't for me. This isn't what I do. This isn't my
Right.
oath. I'm going to leave.
Yep.
Why not do that? Why? It's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, we talk about the pandemic, but there's also an infodemic, right? Just a misinformation that's out there, and it's incredible how you have these really slickly produced YouTube or other social media videos, out there just telling people, no, it's made up in a lab. People are trying to control your mind. The vaccine is going to control your body. I mean, and it's actually surprising to me as a physician and as a human being how seemingly educated people can kind of fall for these type of things. Right. And there's actually been studies showing that during times of high emotional stress, i.e. a pandemic, that very well-meaning people can be easily swayed. And that's what I've seen. I've had people come and say, don't you think this is all made up? Don't you think this is a democratic virus? And I always tell people that this is an equal opportunity harbinger of death and destruction. It doesn't care who you are, what you are. It's clearly outlined socioeconomic disparities in this country, right? We know that people
Right.
of minorities, lower socioeconomic status are disproportionately afflicted by this. We've talked about it before, and you already know this, and I'm sure you've talked about it. But there's still people out there who think there's an agenda, whether it's political or otherwise, with this virus. And it's mind-boggling how people will propagate that kind of misinformation.
Any second-year medical student can say and understand
Sure.
that a virus looks for a host. That's
That's
it.
Doesn't matter.
That's
Yep.
A virus has no discriminating ability whatsoever. It needs a live host to live in and to propagate. It's that simple. And so I just feel like, honestly, and I don't want to, keep beating the rails here, but I just feel like,
No, go ahead.
I just feel like the doctors who are quote unquote in charge, like, talk to people,
Right.
talk to people in plain, regular English with real emphasis. Don't sit up there in front of the mic, in front of the country, and use all this medicalese that people have to understand and data and graphs and charts. No, you sit there and tell people very simple things. That's my point. If right in the beginning, they had stood up and said, guys, this is a virus. This is how viruses work.
Yep.
Okay? Then this is what a virus will do to you when we can't control the virus and it propagates in your lungs. I mean, the kind of straight talk that I've tried to do my whole career,
Sure.
I just felt frustrated that the people who were given the light and the platform didn't do it. But now you want to come do it. Well, no. You got 250,000 Americans in the ground now. Anyway.
You say 250, and models suggest another 150, total 400,000 by early next year if things don't change around. So, but you make the mention we're all physicians, we're healers, but the idea of being educators and you using platforms, you use your incredible platform across so many different aspects of media, to a much smaller level. Clinton and I try to do it whenever we do the local news in New York. But I tell you, I do enjoy it, and I can sense your passion because it's not medical meetings. It's just taking complex medical issues, dissecting them into very simple things that the average person, the non-medical person, can understand. And I personally, and I know, I'm sure we all do, feel very gratified if someone can say, oh, okay, that's what that means, because the idea of a virus and looking for a host, I don't think most people get that, right? So it's something as simple as that just all the virus wants to do isn't give a damn who you are, as long as you have some DNA or RNA that they can incorporate themselves into and hijack your system, they're good to go. So that's a point very well taken.
The next challenge is going to be trying to convince people who historically are scared of vaccines to actually take a vaccine that may help them.
Of course they're scared to take a vaccine. Wouldn't you be afraid people aren't as stupid as the government thinks people are.
Yep.
Wouldn't you be afraid to take a vaccine that, one, was rushed, that everyone understands is rushed, that, two, people are making pronouncements that the vaccine's going to be ready by an election, and you don't think that's a coincidence that there's a political charge to that?
Sure.
Come on. So people who we need to take the vaccine, we need 75% of the country to take the vaccine for this to be effective. A lot of intelligent, smart people, well-meaning people are like, I don't know about that. Why? Because now their minds, have been twisted because they're doubtful, and understandably so. So now people like us have to use our platforms to educate people about, like, one of my Instagram posts in the next couple of days is I'm going to explain how vaccines work in a very simple way. I just want to show people I'm going to get a whiteboard, and I'm going to say, this is how the vaccine works. It's not going to give you coronavirus, because people think that they may get coronavirus from it. Of course. So, like you said earlier, it's people like us who have the platforms. We're the soldiers that have to go out and really educate the people. And we can't, like me, I'm frustrated by the people who actually have the national light. Like, they should have been doing it, but that's okay. I can't sit here and cry over spilled milk. Sure. What I have to do is galvanize people like you. We all have a voice, big or small, and then it becomes a network of us educating the public, our brothers and sisters and neighbors, and letting them know what the truth is. And that's the only way to beat this, guys, is that we have to speak up and stand up as physicians and educators and media personalities to say, this is how it works.
I said, we really appreciate what you do as far as educating large, massive audiences about, health and wellness. I want to get into your books. I don't know if Suraj had a question before we get into your books.
No, I just want to comment. I like how the sunlight is almost like dissecting your head there in the picture. So I found that was a little comical interlude.
Yeah, I'm trying to pick a good room.
I think both Dr. Ian and I both appreciated that in the sun.
All right, so you it's like a.
Sorry, I had to. Someone had to say something, So
it's like a witness. I need that deep voice.
No, but continue. So I want to know more about the book.
So historically, your books have been about nutrition, wellness, lifestyle. What made you decide to write a novel, The Unspoken, available now?
Yeah, there it is. This is
if you need an actor for the lead, it's me. I'm ready.
Well, actually, it just got optioned to be a TV series. So fingers crossed, a network will buy it, or a streaming service.
Clenton Coleman, a Denzel Washington wannabe, but okay. If you want to take it to Bollywood, you call me. So I'm just letting you know.
There you go. I gotta be honest with you guys. I've always been a lover of fiction. I've always read fiction. I've always written fiction for myself. I love good stories. And it was interesting because I've also always been a guy who likes science, right? So I always knew I wanted to be a doctor. But, growing up, I'm much older than you guys. Growing up, I was always kind of taught that you chose one thing and you stayed in that lane. I never understood that. That just didn't make sense to me. I'm like, well, let's see. If the average life expectancy for a black guy is 70-something years old, why do I want to do one thing for 75 years? I want to do as much as I can. I ain't got much time.
Right.
So I always loved fiction and novels. My genre I love is always suspense and thriller. And I'll never forget when so I started writing when I was in college, fiction. But then when I was in med school, my second year, we had the guy who wrote The House of God, the medical novel.
Oh, that should be required reading for all interns. The Fat Man's Rules are true to this day.
Gomers go to ground.
I love that book.
Gomers go to ground. They can always hurt you more,
Yes. I got to go back and read it, actually. But
it's incredible.
But he came and visited us. And I was just, as a student, I was up at Dartmouth at the time. And I was just thinking, wow, how cool. Like, here's a doctor. And he decides to write this novel that's very interesting and engaging and funny and great stories. So that, I really think, said to me, I can still be a doctor and I can still write something that's not just straight medical, like, nonfiction medical, but write some creative fun. Right. And that gave me the idea. So The Unspoken, by the way, is my third novel. It is based on a character named Ash Kane, who's an African-American private investigator. He used to be a detective with Chicago Police Department. He leaves because he won't participate in a police shooting, the cover-up of a bad police shooting. He leaves, becomes a private investigator to take on very select cases in and around Chicago. And his first case is a very wealthy girl, a real estate heiress who goes missing, young girl. And her mother comes down into the city to hire our guy, Ash Kane, to find her missing daughter. And then the ride begins. It's fun. It twists, it turns, it's up and down. But it's a great distraction from all the stuff that's going on now, and people really like this. So I'm happy people are loving the book.
You know what? We were very fortunate to get a copy, and I look forward to dissecting and reading it very soon. So we appreciate you sending us
There
copies.
needs to be an Indian hero, something like.
There's plenty of Indian heroes. One of them is on the screen, so don't worry about it. But can I ask you just a quick question? Because just to go back to your earlier your thoughts on diet. If you could just summarize, just a quick bullet. Like, I'm a pescatarian. I don't eat culturally. Being from India, we don't eat red meat anyway. And I gave up chicken, so I'm a pescatarian. But what is kind of the basis of, there's so many people say you have, ask 10 people, there's 12 different diet books they follow. What are kind of the universal themes that you kind of would ascribe to in terms of diet and nutrition? That, not only the average person can follow, but even myself or Clinton, for example.
Yeah. So my most recent one is this one, which is called Clean
Lean. All right.
And the idea behind this book is very simple. I take clean eating, which means reducing processed ingredients.
Okay.
And there are way too many processed ingredients in our food chain. But I take clean eating and I combine it with intermittent fasting. And there are two major types of intermittent fasting. There's TRF, time restricted feeding. Where you take the 24-hour clock and you break it up into a fasting window and a feeding window. This is the most popular. But then there's also the 5-2 fasting, where you take 5 days of eating whatever you want and 2 days of eating 800 calories or less. So two types of intermittent fasting, but this combines the time restricted feeding fasting. And so basically it's this, guys. It's the idea that, one, if you eat cleaner foods, they tend to be lower in calories.
Right.
They tend also not to mess up your hormones and your metabolism, which a lot of these processed ingredients can do, by the way, as a side effect. And then if you do some intermittent fasting, you tend to actually drive your body into the mode of burning your fat for energy, which is what
more
you're always
efficient,
trying to do. And so, so I think those two, clean eating by itself is very successful.
Right.
Intermittent fasting by itself can be successful. I believe in synergy. So combine the two of them together and, you get the result.
Which I think, let me interject. Which I think is the issue now that I see, like seeing patients, is that they're home, so they're cooking more, theoretically eating less processed foods, but they're gaining weight because they're eating all day because they have nothing to do. So I think they've accomplished the goal of eating better and cleaner and less processed foods, but they're just in the kitchen all day because they're bored. So I think that's an excellent point that you brought up, is having some kind of regimen where you eat, you stop eating, and you let your body metabolize the calories that you took in.
But I even have patients tell me they do the emotional eating, right, which can be counterintuitive, just keep eating all day. And I mean, I think Clinton should come clean, because I mean, how many times a week do you eat Popeyes fried chicken?
I haven't had Popeyes in years. There's a line outside.
When they came out with that new chicken, you were the first in line. I'm just saying, be honest with yourself. Be honest with Dr. Ian also. And
I do like Five Guys though. But
when you say clean food, so some people have come on and talked about plant-based, and that's not for everyone. I get that. But you're saying, like, even if you're eating meat, eat the most high quality, freshest, less. So if you're gonna eat meat, eat fresh meat. Don't eat bologna, right? Don't eat processed meat. That's the idea.
So interesting you say that. So my next book, actually, in April of 2021, is called Fast Burn, which is 2021 Fast Burn, my new in April. That will be a diet book. In 2022, I'm writing a book that is a plant-based book, actually. So I'm going to talk about plant-based. So that's down the road a little bit. But listen, here's the idea. The idea is that people have to understand, clean eating doesn't mean eating like a vegetarian, though you can be if you want to.
Sure.
It means eating the food as cleanest as possible. No hormones, no antibiotics, making sure your beef has been grass-fed. I mean, these things by themselves, they aren't a big deal, but in an additive way, it becomes important, right? Yeah. So, people say, well, does that mean eat all organic? No, doesn't mean eat all organic at all. Organic's a whole different situation. And I subscribe to the belief that you only need to eat the dirty dozen organic, which means those things that you're going to eat the skin of when it comes to fruits and vegetables. Otherwise, why do you need to eat an organic banana? I mean, there's no difference nutritionally between that. The only reason to eat an organic fruit is if you're going to eat the skin of the fruit and you're worried.
So like blueberries, raspberries, those type of things, right?
That's apples, if you're going to eat the skin. If you're worried that there might be, and by the way, in most cases there's not, but if you're worried that there might be pesticide residue on the fruit or vegetable of the skin, then you may choose to eat organic. But to be very honest with you guys, eating traditionally farmed fruits and vegetables in the vast majority of cases is completely fine. But if you're really If you're really anal about it and you're really worried about it, then you eat organics only when you're going to eat the skin of something.
Makes sense.
You know, what if I play devil's advocate? Because some patient will say, well, doc, that's fine. You know, you can afford to go to Whole Foods, but it's expensive, at least in some people's mind, to eat healthy. And if you're talking about even much lower socioeconomic status, and we always have to be empathetic about this when we're giving advice. Well, that's easy for you to say, doc, but you know, for me, I can feed a family of 4 at McDonald's or a fast food for $20, and you know, and it's because high fat food, it fills up the kids. So how do you kind of answer that? Because I know people will sometimes push back when I speak about that to patients or others.
3 ways.
Yeah.
The first way is it may be inexpensive to eat foods from fast food restaurants like that, but it's extremely expensive when you get sick.
No, sure.
So the money you're saving now by eating those foods and being able to feed and I get the financial pressures. I'm not insensitive to it. I get it. Right. But I have a long-term view. The money I'm saving on the meals and the food is going to cost me down the road with obesity and heart disease and high blood pressure and high cholesterol. And to me, as a physician and just as a person, there's no monetary value I can place on not having to take medications every day for high blood pressure or for diabetes. Right. Like, I don't care how much money I save. I don't want that stuff. Okay. Yeah. You guys know that is life altering and it's not fun. So that's the first thing, is understanding what the long-term play is. The other part of it is, to be very honest with you, yes, eating healthier foods, eating organic foods, which are not always tied together, but eating those types of foods, yeah, they're a little more expensive, but they're not, the margins of expense is not what it used to be. Yeah. 15 years ago when I started writing these books, organic food was, 50, 60% more expensive. Healthier food, much more expensive.
Right.
But because of the demand in the marketplace that the average Joe wants healthier foods, thankfully, manufacturers have responded.
Yeah. That's a very excellent point. That's a good point.
Yeah,
right.
They've made healthier foods more affordable. Once again, still a little more expensive, but the margin in the old days, this was regular food, this was healthier food. It was like this. Right. Now it's like this. So, then the last thing I want to say is, It's all about investment, right? People complain about the expense of healthier food, but they don't complain that they're buying a $40 case for a phone, for a piece of plastic.
That's about priorities. That's right. About
15
priorities.
cents to make.
Right.
They don't complain about cell phone bills. Well, when you look at your bill, by the way, almost 30 or 35% of it is in taxes and fees, has nothing to do with your service. So people spend money where they want to spend money. And to use the excuse that healthier food is more expensive, well, I want to invest in my health and the longevity of my life all day long. I don't know what your investment should be, but you got to think about what your investment should be also.
Yep, well said.
No, that's an excellent point. You have inspired us to be better physicians. Before we wrap up, you mentioned, like, in the old school of medicine, you take, you go to med school, internship, residency, fellowship, whatever. So now
did they have med school when you were growing up?
Exactly. No, but the idea is that's what you do until you drop dead. You just keep doing it. And I think physicians of today, and they're better for it, are interested in doing many different things. And you are a clear example, and quite honestly, giving us goals, of doing so many different things, all tying back to health, but in different realms, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, obviously all the media that you do. It's very inspiring, I must say. Before we wrap it up, can you just tell us, like, where listeners can find you, social media, Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff?
Sure. My Instagram is at Dr. Ian Smith. Spell the doctor out, I-A-N Smith. My Twitter is Dr. Ian Smith. I just joined TikTok, so I have 1 follower. TikTok,
you're not gonna be doing dances, are you? Are you gonna be doing those?
No, but we'll see what happens. I got to get, you got to relate, man. You got to go where the people are. So
that's true.
Your street cred is on the line, though.
Well, that's all right. I feel good. I'm old, man, so I don't have any embarrassment now. I've done my thing.
Old school. It's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. My TikTok is the official Dr. Ian, D-R-I-A-N, and my website is driansmith.com. Spell the doctor out. Guys, listen, I got to tell you something. In all seriousness, we need more doctors of color,
yes,
of mixed backgrounds. And when we get doctors of color, we don't always have to be clinicians. We need doctors in government. Yep. We need doctors in business. We need doctors on TV. We need doctors in law. We need doctors everywhere. And I think that when I first started doing this, people looked at me like I was crazy. Like, what? Like, you matched an orthopedic surgery and you want to do TV? Why would you? What a waste. This is way back in the day. And doctors would shun me, and they wouldn't. I'd go to I was a correspondent for NBC News. I'd go and interview doctors about new papers that were very interesting and very helpful. And, oh my goodness, no, they were too important to talk to me. Well, fast forward 15 years, and my goodness, doctors almost willing to pay you to interview them. You know what I mean? Like, the whole thing has changed. Yeah. So I'm glad you guys are doing what you're doing. I'm going to retire, and, someone needs to take the baton. And I keep encouraging young guys like you, like, don't allow yourself to be circumscribed by the perceptions and the expectations of others. You're a medical doctor, but you're more than a medical doctor. You're a human being. You're a father. You're a brother. You're many things. You can still do those other things. Medicine should not define you. It should be part of who you are.
Well said.
I think that I don't think either myself.
You got to end on that note, man.
We cannot. I cannot possibly touch that. So I'm going to simply say we are very grateful and thankful for having Dr. Ian come on our show today. It's been an incredible discussion, eye-opening, inspiring for both myself and my inspiring colleague over there, Clinton Coleman. Of course, this has been Recommended Daily Dose. Please tune in and listen in, and we'll see you next time. Dr. Ian, thank you so much.
Until next time. Be safe. Thanks for all you guys do.
Thank you.